I know. Everybody is wondering what got into the Altoona curve. We know that what got into Jon Mozes this week, since they've been in Chesapeake, is a whole bunch of seafood, and particularly lobster. But what got into the curve? That's the big question in our visit with Jon, presented by Marcus and Mack, voted best law firm, best personal injury lawyer 3 years in a row in the Best of Indiana County contest. Visit them online, marcusandmack.com. So a lot of lobster this week?
Just a little bit. It's still early, though. Big weekend ahead of us.
Early in the season, too. You've got to build up to something like that. I know. Hey, this Altoona Curve baseball team suddenly found their stride, huh?
Yeah, it's been everything. It's not just the pitching, which obviously the starters have been really, really good to start the year. But it's been the bullpen has closed it out when they have leads this season. That was sort of an Achilles heel for them last year where they couldn't really keep a lead. And, they're getting just enough offensively. Sammy Ciani, the numbers may not say it, but he's playing some good baseball. Termarr Johnson has had some big swings. Jack Brannigan's, very, very much won a couple of games for the Curve with his clutch at bats. They're just playing some good situational baseball and, playing well in all three phases. It's been fun to watch.
Yeah, it sure does help, though, when you've got a guy like Hunter Barco going out there. And Wilbur Dotel is pretty darned impressive early in this season, too.
When I talked to our pitching coach before the season, he said that Wilbur Dotel could have a year like Luis Ortiz had when he was here in Altoona a couple years ago. Guy that was sort of overshadowed by other names in the system, but then he gets to Double-A and has a lot of success. And that's exactly the story for Wilbur Dotel. Struck out 8 in 5 scoreless innings. I was talking to Matt Ford, our pitching coach, a little bit yesterday, and, he was saying early in that start, he didn't have his cutter, which is sort of his main go-to secondary pitch. He didn't have that pitch, but, he sort of fought his way through it, and he just kept on throwing it. And later in the outing, in the 4th inning, in the 5th inning, it came around, and he was able to get more guys out. So it's good to see a guy sort of stick with it when they don't have it on the day, because sometimes it does click later in the start. And, Dotel, let's remember, he's only 22. So the success he is showing here, I think really proves that he has the type of stuff to be successful for a long time.
Yeah, it really does. And then you throw Barco into the mix. And I know that, a couple of the games in this past week, for instance, we said Solomito starting tonight, then Solomito isn't able to go. We said Domkowski was supposed to start. He gets called up to Indy. Pitching coaches and managers at that level, at the Double-A level, they got a lot of different forces that they have no control over. But when you got guys that can sit out there in the rocking chair and just deal from the mound, that has to be a great load off of their minds.
It's funny. Andy Fox, our manager, is one of those guys who just rides the wave, right? He says that kind of thing. He's like, I'm better when things are just sort of on the fly. We don't have to have it super scheduled out and parceled out. And I think that's a really good demeanor to have as a Double-A manager, because at the beginning of this week, you're right? Looking at Domkowski pitching yesterday. He ends up in Triple-A because they had doubleheaders and, needed another arm to start a game. And then you sort of piece your way through it with a bullpen game yesterday. Bullpen games are always sort of fraught and a little bit scary for a manager and a pitching coach, because you don't know how it's going to play out. You can script it, but, it comes down to guys' effectiveness and how many pitches they can throw. So you sort of just got to ride the wave. And, the Curve were fortunate that they got enough good pitching yesterday, and you get 8 runs. That's usually enough to win a game. So it was really an encouraging win for the Curve yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's talk a little Termarr Johnson. This is a guy that Pirates fans seem to have been waiting for forever. He's still only like 14 years old. And so you watch this guy trying to figure things out on the Double-A level. You can see the obvious physical skill is there. It's just a matter of putting it together. It's the eye, it's the approach, it's getting the bat, keeping it in the hitting zone for however long you can or you think is best for you. What has been, I don't want to say turnaround because I don't think we're quite there yet, but what has been the point of improvement for Termarr?
I think the key to his success is that he just consistently has good at-bats. He's usually in good, advantageous counts for hitters. He's at 2-0 or at 1-1. He's got a really discerning eye at the plate, and I think that's really impressive to see for a guy who, by the way, still only 20 years old. He's going to turn 21 in mid-June, so he's a young guy. Obviously, Pirates fans have known his name for a while as the fourth pick in the draft in 2022, but he sees the ball really well when it comes out of a pitcher's hand, and he's able to recognize and make adjustments. And he's got such a quick and powerful, almost violent swing that he can really do damage on the ball, even though he's only, 5'8", 5'9", right? He's not a big guy out on the field, but he's a very good athlete as well. So I think that's really the key, is that he is recognizing pitches well as they come out of the hand, and he's able to make adjustments to them.
Are there things he needs to do in the field?
Well, I think it just comes down to consistency. That's what Andy Fox and I have talked about when it comes to Termarr, that, it's consistently making the routine play. Andy had this great quote that I heard on Media Day where he was like, it's great to make the 5-star play, the 4-star play, where you're going up the middle and making the jump throw to first base. It's awesome to make those plays, but you have to make the 1-star, the 2-star, and the 3-star plays every single time. Where you have to be reliable within your area to do that. So that's what it comes down to right now for Termarr. Can he consistently make those routine-style plays in the field?
You don't remember him because you weren't born yet, but they used to say the same things when the Pirates had Frank Tavares at shortstop. And then in 1979, after the season had started, they traded him for a guy named Tim Foley. And Tim Foley was the steady infield presence, and his acquisition really was a key point, a turning point for the Pirates in that 1979 World Series year. Tavares made the spectacular, but the routine, there were a lot of drop balls, there were a lot of bad throws, and getting Tim Foley, a guy you knew would make the plays that you're supposed to make, that's the thing.
Yeah, it's so critical, right? And, I think you see in today's era, you remember this was a conversation that you and I were having about O'Neal Cruz when he was playing shortstop for the Curve.
Yeah.
That he could make the spectacular play, but was not as consistent at making the routine play. And, look how that's played out 4 or 5 years later. He's playing center field instead.
Yeah, you're right. All right, so he's learning on the fly, too. That's what Double-A baseball is about, is learning on the fly. And as we think ahead now, whether the Curve can win 1, 2, or 3 of the remaining games in this series, they're going to be home next week. Altoona fans have to be pretty excited.
Yeah, good week coming up for Curve baseball. I think the Curve are hitting their stride a little bit. We're playing Akron again, where we lost 4 out of 6, and 2 of the games really got out of hand at their place the first full week of the season. But I think Altoona is just playing a little bit better right now. There's some rhythm, there's some good chemistry. It's also not 25 degrees, during the games anymore, as it was at Akron that week. So I think next week's going to be some more really high competitive baseball. And, I think the weather's going to turn out to be pretty good. We've gotten really lucky here in Chesapeake this week. But, looking ahead to the 10-day forecast, seeing a lot of 60s, low 70s, no rain in the active forecast right now. Got fireworks on the Friday night when we're home next week. So it should be a good week to get out and start your summer a little early.
Yeah, there you go. That's a great idea. Come back here, get a little Curve burger going, and enjoy all the great offerings there in Bowie, where you are now. Tell me about the lobster so far this year. Has it been up to par?
It sure has. I'm going to partake again this afternoon, and then probably hop around in downtown Annapolis tomorrow. I will say that this is one of the sneaky nice trips. For in terms of eating and drinking away from the field. There's what to see around here in Maryland. You can walk the campus, Navy's campus. Right on the bay is a really sort of nice scenic thing. There's quite a few museums. And that kind of thing. It's really a nice, populous area. And, if you want to, you can also drive up to Baltimore about an hour from here, drive down the direction. So you can also major city experience if you want to. This is a sneaky, nice trip for us, and hopefully the Curve can pick up 2 more wins this week and make it 5 out of 6.
Yeah, there you go. That'd be a great plan. John, of course, you'll be there next week calling the games for the Curve, and we appreciate your visit with us this morning.
Thanks very much, my friend. We'll talk soon.
There is Jon Mozes, the Altoona Curve, and they're in Chesapeake, playing against Chesapeake this week. And they've got 3 more games there tonight, tomorrow, and Sunday, and then a day off Monday, and then back at Blair County Peoples Bank Field, and that'll be Peoples Gas Field. Get the right field, right company. Peoples Gas Field, and the Curve is home for a 6-game set.